So today we're going to do a review of the Creworks wire stripping machine, and let's see how well it's going to strip some of my wire. I'm going to start with 3 pieces of this thicker wire here. It is a little stranded on the inside, but they're very thick pieces of stranded wires, like maybe 6 individual pieces of copper in there, but they're very thick. So let's see how well this wire stripping machine works at stripping this kind of wire. I certainly made a nice clean cut there. Splintered the hell out of it. I thought that wasn't going to be too deep, but apparently it was too deep. As all these little pieces of copper start flying in every which way. At least it's thicker, so it's not like these tiny little stranded hairs, but still not what we wanted. Got all the copper out of there. We'll get rid of that. Clean up our mess. I'll fold up this little bit that's still intact. As more and more of it falls away. Well, we got one little piece of intact wire. The rest of this is just a big mess. Yep, when doing stranded wire, if there's one thing you can count on is a big mess when using one of these wire cutting machines, if you cut too deeply into the wire, which I did. So we're just going to get rid of all of this. So that was definitely too deep, so let's raise this up a little bit. All right, let's try another piece and see if it does the same. Hopefully it will not. Through the casing, through part of it. Yeah, don't think that went deep enough. Just barely cut into it. So let's tighten it down just a teeny little bit. Just that clear outer casing. Definitely cut into our casing this time, as you can see. I hope it didn't splinter it. Oh, so far so good. Well, that went much better than the last piece. All right, let's fold this up. You can see this is some pretty nice thick copper wire here. It is stranded, but it's very thick as stranded wire goes. So even though this probably would not be considered bear bright, I'll still get #1 copper prices for this stuff. Let's give that a little twist. There we are, a nice big thick piece of copper. I don't know, that probably weighs an ounce or two at least. I don't know. Let's cut the other piece that we have, or strip the other piece that I have, and you know, at the end of this video I'm going to weigh up all my copper and we'll see how much copper we get. Alright, so this is same size piece of wire as far as I know. So let's just not make any adjustments and try it and see what happens. See, when you have it set right, these machines are beautiful. But it can take a lot of, you know, finicky adjusting to get that cutting depth just right for each kind of wire. As you can see, this is cut just perfectly. We got a nice piece of clean copper wire. I'll fold this up. There, another nice piece. So the next piece of wire I have is definitely a little skinnier, and it's still stranded on the inside, but again, it's pretty thick stranded wire. It's not the really thin hair-like stuff. So let's tighten this down a little bit more. We'll loosen off this nut here. Let's start right there. I don't want to go too deep. I think that might have worked. Uh-oh, got a couple little pieces coming off. Oh no. Yeah, we went too deep. Yeah, now as we know, when we cut too deep, we do nothing but make a mess. Overall, when you just have a bunch of little pieces of wire that are all different sizes, it's my personal opinion that stripping it with a knife by hand is much, much easier and much less messy and much faster. The wire stripping machine comes in handy if you have a ton of wire that's all the same size. If you got a ton of wire all the same size, then you can make that adjustment once, find your sweet spot, get it just perfect, and then you'll be fine, right? But when you have to constantly keep adjusting this machine, and obviously, as you can see, when you cut too deep, it just becomes a big mess every time. All right, let's clean up our mess. All these little pieces of copper wire. Okay, so that was too deep, so let's lighten it off a little bit. I have another piece of wire that's the very same. Let's see if we can improve on the second piece. So that went through and did not cut our wire at all. So I'll tighten it down just a little bit. Try it again. That looked like it just started to score into it. Let's see here. A little bit of splintering, but not nearly as bad as the last piece. Let's try to fold that up and keep it all in one piece. Definitely a little bit better than the last piece. I didn't end up with a ton of splintered pieces everywhere, so that's a bit of an improvement. I got a couple more pieces that seem to be about the same size, the same kind of thick stranded wire, so let's just leave it where it's at. Give it a shot. Did that cut through it? I don't think it did. This wire is just a teeny bit skinnier. So we're just going to let this loose so we can tighten it down just a little bit more. Fingers crossed. Uh-oh. As soon as I hear that noise, it sounds like it's cutting into my copper, so let's see what happened here. Oh yes. As soon as I heard that noise, I had a feeling, and sure enough, we made a little bit of a mess. Stabby, stabby little pieces of copper. Ouch. Even with the gloves, it gets you right through the gloves, so you got to be really careful. And again, this is why I think, you know, doing a lot of this type of wire by hand is a lot easier because you're not going to end up with all this stabby stuff. And you don't have to adjust the wire cutter 50,000 times to try to find your perfect cutting position. All right, so I got another piece, so let's loosen this off a little bit. Let's try it. Well, I didn't hear the horrible noise. But yeah, it didn't cut through the casing either. So we're going to have to tighten it down a little. That's just a little bit. I didn't hear the horrible noise. I think it's cut through this casing. I can kind of see it. Oh yeah, there we are. Well, that was much better. See, when you get it set just right, no problems, no splintering, nice clean piece of wire. But you know, with the knife, I could have done this the first try and it would have just been fine. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below if you think these wire cutting machines are a good investment. Like, of course, if you have spools and spools of the same size wire, these things are going to be a great investment. But I'm a hobby scrapper, and I just get wire that I find on garbage day in the trash, and I don't find a lot of industrial type wire, solid core wire. But, you know, the pieces I do find are generally small, and therefore it's just way easier to just strip them by hand compared to using this machine. But let's move on and let's try some skinnier solid core stuff. So these pieces of wire here are more like, you know, what you're going to find inside your BX and Romex cable. I think this mostly came out of Romex. So it's going to be a little bit skinnier. I can see that these vary in size a little bit. These first two white pieces seem a little thicker than these other ones. So, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. We'll see what happens. At least with the solid core stuff, we shouldn't have to worry about the wire splintering too much. Now, I think I'm going to have to tighten this down a little bit more. I'll just loosen that off so I can tighten it. Let's give it a shot. Did it cut through the casing? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think enough. Yeah, it just started to cut into it, so I think just a teeny bit tighter. Right there. Let's try it again. Well, it still doesn't seem like it cut into it enough. I'll tighten it a little bit more and try it again. I think we might have found a sweet spot there. There we go. Nice clean cut. So there we go, that worked that time. We'll fold up our little teeny piece of bare bright. All right, on to the next one. Yeah, I think this is the same size, so let's just leave it where it's at and see what happens. Did we get it? I cannot tell. Well, look at that. I couldn't even see the cut, but apparently it cut just fine. All right, let's get rid of that piece. One teeny little short piece. All right, that worked pretty good. Now these other pieces seem a little skinnier. Let's just try it where it's at and we'll see what happens. I don't think we cut into that. Nope. We're going to tighten that down a little bit. nice clean piece of wire out of there. Get rid of our casing. All right, 2 more little pieces. Oh, this one might have been one of the thicker ones. Ew. All right, let's try the skinnier one here, I think. There we go. Yeah, see, this can start to go pretty quickly. I'll loosen that off just a teeny little bit. There we go. Let's fold up these few little pieces of copper I have. Yeah, not much, all those little pieces put together, but, you know, it's another nice little chunk of copper. Here's another piece that looks about the same size, so let's just try it. Didn't work very well. Let's try it from that bottom hole again and see if it'll work. Yeah, it's all about the angle. The bottom hole worked just fine. So when I stuck it through that middle hole, it must have jumped off the wheel. You know, it always has to feed up into it, and works a lot better. Keeps the wire in the center. And what else do we have here? One tiny, tiny little piece. Well, it was the same size, so that worked. All right, let's move on to some other wire. These pieces are a little longer, but a very similar thickness, so I'm going to leave it right where it's at to start, and let's see what happens. Sorry about the wire banging on the machine. All right, let's give it a shot. Definitely cut into it. Might have been a little too deep, but at least with the solid core stuff, we're not making a huge mess. All right, got a nice clean piece of wire. It's grabbing my sleeve. Now you can see I probably did cut a little too deep into it. I don't know if you can see that little hair sticking off of there, but it definitely shaved my copper wire a little bit. It's where you want to make sure you wear gloves. Yesterday I was recording a similar video, stripping some stranded wire, and I got to one little solid piece like this, and I cut too deep into it, and it left some very sharp edges on it. So when I went to twist it up like this, all of a sudden I noticed there was blood on the wire. And it's because, you know, I wasn't wearing gloves, which was a silly, silly move. All right, there we go. And I've tried to straighten this wire out as much as I could because, you know, any little really sharp kinks or bends will definitely be an issue with an automatic machine. And you can see when this was originally a double cased wire, and I cut too deep trying to remove that second or the first piece of casing that was around it. And you can see little cuts. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there are little cuts that went into this casing here and there. So I don't know. Let's see what happens. See, that clear casing started to come off. Did we get through the other one? It looks like we did. Oops. There we go. I'm just going to pull that off. And we got our nice clean piece of bare bright wire. Give that a little twist. There we are, nice clean piece. So now it seems like we got our cutting depth dialed in. Let's just run through these other pieces quickly and hope for the best. Did we get it? Did we get it? Oh, I think so. There we go. I'm just going to separate that. And it works like a charm. It's all about getting it dialed in, right? If you can get it right to the perfect depth. And these wire cutters are great, these wire stripping machines. There we go. To show you my stash here so far, this is what we're up to. I'm not quite sure what that weighs, but at the end, we're going to toss this all on a scale and see just what we get. Beautiful. Just couldn't find the little split in it. There we go. All right, another piece. When it works great. You're starting to make some pretty quick work of these pieces of wire. It's probably equal to or just as fast as doing it by hand. All right, 3 more pieces. Let's just fire these in. Last piece of this size, I believe. So we got those last 3 done. Let's just fold up this wire, get it out of the way. Yeah, that's a nice chunk of copper. Yeah, these 3 pieces of wire seem to be a very similar thickness, might be a little skinnier. Let's just try it right where it's at and we'll see what happens. These were solid core pieces of wire, but you can already see it's a little stranded on the inside. So let's hope we didn't make a mess. I didn't hear the horrible noise, but that doesn't mean anything. Looks like I might have cut a little too deep. Yes, I can see little pieces of copper. Yep, I've made a splintered mess. I can't even get this started and I can already see all the little pieces of copper falling. Yep. Some of this might have been when the wire was originally cut to remove an outer casing that was holding all these wires together, because it seems like where it's all broken up, it's just every here and there, and that would be from when I removed the outer casing originally. Yeah, I don't think it was our cut this time that went too deep. Making a mess, making a mess. So as fast as that went on those pieces of Romex wire that were nice and solid in the middle, I still think stripping everything by hand, it's going to be faster and easier because it avoids these kind of problems where you just make a mess. Yeah, you can hear it just poking into my gloves. I'm trying to do this slowly so I don't get stabbed too much, because I am definitely getting stabbed by all the messy little bits of copper. Yep, not fun. I just don't have the patience to deal with it, and I'd rather just throw it into my number 2 copper bucket. So I'm going to let this off just a little bit. Yeah, let's try another piece and see what happens. Definitely cut through the casing, but are we going to end up with that same kind of mess? Probably. Let's see, is this going to come out cleanly? Well, this one might not have got nicked like the other one did. So far, so good. No mess. Oh, good. No mess. Alright, so this isn't bare bright, so this is going to go in my number 1 copper. Nice little chunk still. One more wire the same size, so fingers crossed. I hope it comes out as good as that last one. Can be tricky to grab that casing there to get it started. There we go. So far so good. Yeah, if I could only do the stranded stuff like that every time, I'd be happy. See, if you have a lot of it, then it's not bad, because then you can get it dialed into that perfect spot. But when you only got a couple pieces, by the time you got it dialed in, you've already shredded up the couple of pieces. A couple little pieces fell off of there. Came out nice and clean, but still not bad. Still throw that into my number 1. This looks about similar. It's probably a little skinnier. Let's give it a shot. Don't think that cut into it. Well, maybe it did. Well, looks like it just barely scored it. But enough that I can pull it through. Well, that's good. Lots of the skinny wire that came out of like electrical fluorescent light units. And it was just barely scoring it. So let's tighten this down just a teeny bit. Try it one more time. use the pliers. There we go. Well, this one seems a little thicker. Let's try it. Perfect. Let's fold up all this wire that's piling up here. Nice little chunk of bare bright. Now these are the real skinny ones. Let's tighten this down just a little bit. Did we get it? Did we get it? I don't know. And skinny wires is very hard to see if it's actually made a split. I don't think it did. So let's tighten this a little bit more. If you heard that noise, because when the wire comes out the back, it sometimes likes to stick it right into the side of the electric motor. And that's what just happened. But that worked in the sense of we removed our casing. So it's nice to see that it does work on these real skinny little wires. Let's try this one out. That was just the perfect depth. Just scored into it, didn't quite cut 100% through, which is kind of perfect because you don't want it to cut into the copper. Might not have cut deep enough on this one. Let's find a spot. Oh, I don't see it. Oh, hold on. Yeah, it's just really hard to see those cuts in it sometimes. There we go. Let's fold up all this wire before it starts to get in the way. See, making a mess. Yeah, nice chunk. So I have quite a bit more of this wire to go through. So I think I'm just going to do the rest of this off camera. And we're going to come back at the end because we know now that our Creworks wire stripping machine will cut through these very thin little pieces of solid core wire. It will remove the outer casing on them, no problem. So the key to keeping these in the center of the wire cutting machine so it actually cuts the whole casing and doesn't jump out is to obviously use your guard, use the littlest hole, and make sure that that hole is positioned down below the cutting wheel on the inside. So when it goes in there, it has to feed upwards up into the disc, and then that blade, I don't know, it just keeps it right in the center the whole time, and it works no problem. So let's get back to this at the very end of our video, and let's see how much copper we got out of all of our wire. Alrighty, so I'm done stripping all that wire. Let's see how much it weighs. I'm going to drop all this on here. £1, 13 ounces. Or 1.9 pounds. So just about 2 pounds of bare bright. And currently at my yard, bare bright copper is going for $5.37. So we clearly got $10.60, something like that. Over $10. Let's just say that. Over $10 in copper, so not too shabby. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.